Last summer, Luciano Frattolin and his 9-year-old daughter Melina left Montreal and went on a trip together. One Saturday night, the father called police from near Lake George and reported his daughter missing. He said she may have been kidnapped. Police found Melina's body in a pond in Ticonderoga, and they charged the father with murder. His trial is underway now in Elizabethtown. We check in with a reporter who's there on today's Story of the Day.
Support for Story of the Day comes from Long Run Wealth, an SEC-registered investment advisor in Lake Placid, providing comprehensive wealth management, retirement, and financial planning solutions. LongRunWealth.com. And the Devlin Inn and Suites, Lake Placid, welcoming families, athletes, and groups to the Olympic Village, offering Adirondack mountain views and dog-friendly accommodations. TheDevlinNY.com.
Hey, I'm David Sommerstein. It's Wednesday, August 5th. First up, St. Lawrence County's sheriff says a plan to partner with Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE, is, quote, dead in the water. That's because the New York State Legislature banned those collaborations. Richard Haller has more.
Back in February, St. Lawrence County voted to allow the Sheriff's Office to join the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement's 287G program. This would have allowed local law enforcement to train with ICE and perform specific actions under federal oversight. County deputies would have been trained to search ICE's databases to see if anyone in custody at the county jail is in the country illegally. The deal was met with huge community pushback. More than 200 people protested against the measure and took up 4 hours of public comments at a county board meeting. And this was happening shortly after ICE officers had killed 2 U.S. citizens in Minneapolis. But then in May, Governor Kathy Hochul signed legislation that restricts local police from collaborating with ICE.
They do their job, although I don't like the way they're doing their job, but don't expect our local law enforcement to team up with them because we have other responsibilities for our local law enforcement.
St. Lawrence County's planned collaboration hasn't even started yet. Monday night at the county's monthly board meeting, St. Lawrence County Sheriff Rick Engel said that in a nutshell, the deal is now dead in the water. And he's not happy about it.
It infringes upon the autonomy of the sheriff's office. I'm elected by the people to protect the people, and now I can't perform all the duties that I need to perform. So that's one of the issues, and they should feel the same because it impacts their home rule.
Last month, Attorney General Letitia James sent letters to a dozen local law enforcement agencies that are already working with ICE to terminate those agreements by August 25th. But that prompted some pushback. According to WAMC, the Rensselaer County executive outside of Albany said he'll ignore the Attorney General's order. Republican St. Lawrence County legislator Joseph Lightfoot voted for the cooperation. He says the state is overriding local governance, but he says the county will comply.
You know, as a public officer in St. Lawrence County and in the state of New York, I'm obligated to, as is every other citizen, to abide by what the law is.
On Monday, a federal judge denied the federal government's motion to block New York's ban on 287G agreements. Governor Hochul says the state's decision is legal and will keep communities safe. Richard Haller, North Country Public Radio, Canton.
Speaking of ICE, immigration rights activists say there's been an uptick of ICE activity across New York State. The New York Public News Network's Jimmy Vielkind has that story.
Jean Aurelio and Jesus Carrion say they were nervous when they were summoned for an immigration check-in on a Sunday. Carrion came from Peru in 2022. He married Aurelio the next year, and they've been working to pursue his claim of political asylum. But Carrion and several other immigrants were detained last week at an ICE substation north of Albany. Aurelio watched.
It was just very hectic. I noticed a big white van leaving the back parking lot, and I thought, oh, yeah, something's happening.
Immigrant rights activists say the recent detentions are part of a trend. The group Hands Off NYC reports ICE sightings in the 5 boroughs more than doubled between June and July. The Capital Region Sanctuary Coalition says reports of ICE activity in the Albany area quadrupled in the same period.
There's been a surge.
That's immigration lawyer Matthew Borowski. He represents some of the immigrants detained in the recent raid and says ICE is getting bolder.
I've seen them taking more extraordinary steps to detain as many people as possible.
Federal officials say they're committed to enforcing the law. Trump administration border czar Tom Homan said the uptick in arrests follows a new state law which bans formal cooperation agreements between ICE and local police. Last month, Homan joined conservative commentator Glenn Beck on a podcast and said he warned Governor Hochul this would happen.
I told her, okay, now you forced us to send more agents to New York.
Hochul says she stands by the law. She and other officials say ICE should focus on catching criminals. Congressmember Paul Tonko is a Capital Region Democrat.
This is such an aggressive approach to go well beyond the intent of the law that it's causing havoc out there in the community.
He recently finished an inspection of the ICE detention center in Batavia. It's the place where Carrion is still being held. In Albany, I'm Jimmy Vielkind for the New York Public News Network.
Essex County prosecutors say Luciano Frattolin drowned his daughter Melina, then hid her body. Frattolin has said his daughter was abducted by two men in a white van. He's pleaded not guilty to charges of murder and concealment of a human corpse. Carly Newman with the Plattsburgh Press Republican newspaper has been covering the murder trial that's been going on the last 2 weeks. She told Champlain Valley reporter Kara Chapman that police investigators have laid out how they were able to track Frattolin's vehicle the night his daughter went missing.
Investigators said they used license plate readers all along the Adirondack Northway on July 19, 2025, and data from the chip inside his vehicle was actually able to place his vehicle near the area where Melina was eventually found dead as well. That was a big part of the case in trying to track his location. Other important highlights in the last few days of the trial have been about the notes seized as evidence in Luciano's vehicle by police. Most of the notes were handwritten and detailed thoughts Luciano had about Melina, including one in July of 2025 that said, "Don't let Melina suffer anymore and have a difficult upbringing."
So what is the prosecution saying that those notes mean?
They haven't really tried to say anything about what the notes meant. It's more so of just presenting that to the jury right now and, trying to build the case about what was going on in his mind at that time. These notes were all found and dated June 2025 and July of 2025. So they've been important in, I guess, just trying to figure out, what was going through his mind at the time.
And what does the defense say happened? How are they trying to make their case?
The defense, from my understanding, believed Melina had been abducted on the night she was reported missing to police when Luciano reported it. As it's been reported, Luciano previously told police she was abducted by two men in a white van with no windows or doors in the back from a rest stop off of I-87 in Lake George. It appears they're sticking by that story, but investigators have testified in this trial so far that no white vans matching that description have ever been located by police, and there were traffic stops conducted and plenty of video footage reviewed in attempts to find one. There were a couple that investigator Brady Conlon said he tracked down personally himself, and he had talked to one guy in particular who had a Florida license plate. He ruled him out pretty easily. He had GPS location tracking him the entire time he was on a hike. There was one other one he said, but that person was also ruled out. So that never appeared to be a serious lead in this case.
And does the defense plan to call any witnesses, and is Frattolin expected to take the stand?
As of right now, I don't have any knowledge of what witnesses the defense plans to call, if any. I also have not been informed if Luciano will take the stand or not. So that remains to be seen.
What's expected next in this trial? Do you anticipate things are going to wrap up soon?
From what I'm hearing, the trial should be wrapped up sometime this week, maybe even the next day or two. However, court's unpredictable, so I'm just taking it day by day at this point.
Carly, how big of a deal is this case, not just for the community of Ticonderoga, but also the region?
Being that I'm from Essex County, I've heard of firsthand how big of a case this has been to the area. Last year, I attended a vigil that was held for Melina in Ticonderoga's Bicentennial Park. There must have been hundreds of people who showed up to pay their respects to a 9-year-old girl none of them had ever met. If you drive along Eagle Lake State Route 74, the neighborhood there installed signage along the roadway that says Friends of Melina Frattolin in remembrance of her. Incidents like this make a mark on a community like Ticonderoga because they just don't happen there often. So when they do, it's like a shockwave throughout the town. The family should have some kind of comfort in knowing Melina won't ever be forgotten in Ty and likely the whole county.
That was Carly Newman with the Plattsburgh Press Republican speaking with Kara Chapman. We have more news all the time at ncpr.org. Music today by Christopher Watts and Bee Children, both of Canton. I'm David Summerstein, North Country Public Radio.